Surgically analytical. Same sickness that you paid for gets told away as you choke yourself. So much love to love.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we are flying out the La-7B-20, which is at a battle rating of 5.0 in the Russian tech tree. The reason I'm calling this thing the triple threat is because the La-7B has three main attributes that make this thing one of the best aircraft that I've flown at 5.0. The first attribute is going to have to be the flight performance. This plane under 3 kilometers is absolutely amazing. It's nearly as fast as the D-30 Mustang, it climbs like a bat out of hell, it accelerates like a supersonic jet, it doesn't compress at all, and it turns better than a decent chunk of the planes you're going to be fighting. The La-7 has an option against every plane it faces, and if you ever find yourself in a 1v1, as long as you play your cards right, you will never be on the back foot. In a matchup, you'll either be faster than the enemy, you'll turn better, you'll climb better, and very often you will be superior in 2 of these categories. The La-7 is extremely versatile, and since you're always going to be able to fight on your own terms, I'm comfortable calling this thing the Swiss Army knife of the Russian tech tree. The next asset of the La-7B is the guns. The La-7 is armed with 3 20mm B-20 cannons with 130 rounds per gun. The B-20s on paper are pretty much Shavacs with just some quality of life upgrades like an increase in fire rate and reduced jamming times. However, these guns currently feel really good, and in my opinion, they're some of the best 20mm in the game right now at this BR. I'm sure if you guys have been playing within the last year, you know that Gaijin broke the gun damage again with the shells that primarily use high explosive filling, so most 20mm became pretty darn bad outside of a few specific guns, and the B-20s are one of the cannons that were not affected by the bug. I'm pretty sure it's because they use FIT rounds instead of the HE rounds if you're using the tracer belts, but I'm not still exactly sure why they feel unchanged. But the B-20s right now, they hit like a runaway train, and since you have 3 of them all concentrated in the nose of the La-7, when you hit another plane, they're going to go down almost every time. I've had very few instances where I get sparks or just hits on a plane when shooting, and so on top of doing great damage, the La-7's guns, the B-20s, they also feel really consistent, and that's the most important part. You never really get sparks on them, you're always going to have consistent damage. And the only real gripe I have with the B-20s and just Russian guns in general is the ballistics, but they're not necessarily bad, they just feel a bit odd to use. Russian 20mm have a lot of bullet drop comparable to their speed, so aiming outside of 500 meters can feel a bit odd. The last of the three main advantages of this plane is going to have to be the matchmaker. 5.0 is one of my favorite BRs to play in War Thunder, as this BR range is pretty saturated, and most of the time 5.0s will be fighting other planes that are close to 5.0. Full up tiers and full down tiers are not very common, which I actually find to be a nice thing, because you don't have to fight the 4.0 UFOs that start down there, and very often you won't have to face super fast 6.0s often either. Also, since you aren't 5.3, you can't get full up tiers to 6.3 where super props actually become pretty common to face, and where you will also run into P51Hs, which you actually don't have any options against, but then again, nothing really does. That thing is a joke at 6.3. Anyways, I don't really play the La-7B any differently when I get either an up tier or a down tier. You end up just being either slower or faster depending on what BR you get. Also, the La-7B plays with Russian teams, which are a pretty good, they have a pretty decent win rate, and they also get paired with Japan pretty frequently, which has an even better win rate at this BR, so this should help out with getting better results when grinding, and in my experience, it helps me keep from dying in like all those carry situations that you'll get, for example, on USA teams, all those 1v10s that you don't want, all the games ending really quickly that aren't in your favor, and it's just a nice thing to have a good matchmaker. So, before we get into the gameplay of this video, I think that it is really important for me to explain exactly how I fly the La-7, which is really different when compared to a conventional prop like a BF-109 or a Spitfire. When I'm flying the La-7, energy is not the most important thing you have to think about, because the La-7 is so good at gaining energy under 3,000 meters that focusing on positioning becomes more of a priority than energy. One of the most important parts in an ARB match is the climb, and the general rule in props is to gain as much altitude as you can before a fight. But the La-7 is a rule breaker, and since it is so powerful at low altitudes, you want to do everything that you can to keep the fights low, whether that is by rushing in, baiting people down, or waiting for people to dive so you can follow them. And instead of doing a steep climb where I will end up at the same altitude as other fighters, but at kind of an altitude where my performance is worse in comparison, I utilize the La-7's low altitude engine power to do a very shallow climb, which is usually in between 10 to 12 degrees, to gain as much forward position as possible. You want to treat this thing as if it has an attack respawn, and if you climb at high speed, you get to the middle of the map much quicker than if you were to climb at a more optimal speed. Getting to the enemy team quicker means that you can engage enemies at a lower altitude, which is exactly what you want in the La-7, because below 3,000 meters is your territory where you're fighting others on your terms instead of theirs. The further forward you can start attacking enemies, the more of an advantage you will have against them. So my usual tactic after the climb is to single out an enemy that is not close to any other members of his team, and after taking that enemy out, there are a couple of options. If no other enemies are pressing me, then advancing further and singling out another enemy is a good choice, but if enemies do start to focus me, I run or dive away back towards my team where I can reposition and do the same thing again to the next enemy. This head of the spear method works really well because if people decide to chase you instead of ignoring you on a lower energy state, you can drag them under your team so that they are now in a losing position, and you're going to be protected while you're doing this. If only a single enemy is chasing you, however, you can now isolate them into a 1v1 where you should already be below or close to 3,000 meters, so you should be fighting on your own terms, and you should have no problem winning that 1v1 as long as you play your cards right. In the current ARB, furballs are also really common, and often end up at low altitude as maneuvering costs energy, and since furballs are often at low altitude, you will be gaining the, you'll again be fighting where the La-7 performs best. The La-7B is a very fast plane, and it has good control at high speeds as well, and when you combine this with the triple 20mm in the nose, the La-7 can easily clear out several enemies within seconds of each other. It's really good at slicing through enemies, and it's just really good at getting those multi-kills. Another thing that I like to do in the La-7 is to dive under people just so I can catch them off guard with a spike. The La-7 picks up a lot of speed in a dive, and since it has great high speed turn and great climb, this plane is really good at quickly pitching up for a surprise attack from below. This is a pretty lengthy review, so I'm going to leave some timestamps below for you guys, so you guys can see how I split the video up. First, I'm going to show you some examples of the head of the spear method that I was just talking about, where I am singling out an enemy and then running away to reposition so that I can do it again. Next, I have some energy trap examples, and after that I have a short section with some head-ons, as this plane is pretty good at them. After the head-ons, I have several 1v1 examples each against a different plane. Then I have a match in the regular La-7 at 4.7 that showcases some boom and zoom team play, and I think that it is good to add in here because when I'm flying the La-7B-20, I'm not primarily using boom and zoom. I'm using more of a hit and run, or kind of like a reverse boom and zoom playstyle. And lastly, I have a couple of full matches that focus around my position-oriented strategy, some hit and run situations, and some furballs. Without further ado, let's hop into some gameplay. Alright, so it's been a while, but hopefully I can still sound like I know what I'm talking about a bit. First, we're going to hop into some hit and run examples. This is what most of your kills are going to look like. So I have to go save my teammate here. He has an F8F on his 6, and I like diving a lot to gain speed before I pitch up for an attack. This is sort of a hit and run, and that's what you're going to be doing in the LA7 a lot of the time. So you're going to be pitching up for people, slashing them down, and then diving away. And this is kind of like the reverse boom and zoom method that I was talking about earlier in the video. It's similar almost to how you'd play a jet, where you are more focused on gaining speed than gaining altitude or energy. Another example here, I'm actually above an F8F, and I'm just waiting to see what he's going to do. He split S's under the P51, and he's kind of too far below me for me to really, waste my energy, or to decide to waste my energy. However, he is pitching back up, but I'm mainly looking at the F8F in front of me. And so I'm willing to take the head-on with this F8F because he only has 450 cals, and although this plane is a bit of a fire hazard, he's also pretty good at head-ons. I think I probably get a lot of damage on his engine there in that head-on. His oil's leaking, and I contemplate going for the 109. However, I see that the F8F is turning back into me. I'm going to deploy my combat flaps just to make sure I get inside of his turn rate. He goes down, and now I'm looking at the second F8F. And at this point, he's not going to really be able to get his nose on me either, so I'm just going to full send it. He can't pull in, take his wing off, pilot snipe, and he goes down. And these guns are absolutely amazing. And yeah, the main playstyle I use is I just go straight in, do as much damage as I can, and then get out of there before the enemy team can get any closer. And I don't really have many carry games in this. Most of the games end pretty quick because I get to the middle so fast. I disrupt the enemy team a lot. And yeah, not many carry games. So this next example, it's not a hit and run, it's more of a boom and zoom situation where I energy trap an A6M5. And at this altitude, I have just so much more energy production than this guy. The A6M is completely hopeless, and I should have killed him right there. However, I don't know. I should have killed him. That was right to the middle of the fuel tank, right where the pilot should be. But it doesn't really matter since I have so much more speed and climb rate than this guy. All I have to do is just extend away for maybe 20 seconds, and then I can easily loop back over on top of this guy. A6Ms have absolutely no chance against the LA7 below maybe 4 or 5 kilometers, even after this thing loses its supercharger gear. But yeah, this guy can't really do much besides try and dodge my attacks and maybe get a reversal on me, but I'm not going to really let that happen. I actually almost hit him there from 1.2. These guns are kind of slow. They drop a lot. However, they can reach while. The projectiles actually stay alive for quite a bit of time. And I get another hit there. I figured he was going to try and pitch back up over me. However, this is actually one of the only clips where the guns didn't work 100% of the time, which I was kind of surprised about because it's a zero. It's made of paper mache. But all I really need to do is just keep making passes like this. I'm still going 450 almost. And yeah, this guy has no chance. A6Ms are a pretty easy plane to energy fight as long as you're in a plane that has good climb, because they are never going to be able to catch you. He tries going up over my guns again. However, I read it. I one-shot his tail off, and we're going to go hop into the next example now. So this one is just a pretty simple energy trap against an F8F. He's not very aware. I mean, he's aware of me. However, he's shooting at me from over 2 kilometers, and I can kind of tell he's just going to pitch straight up for me. So all I have to do is just make it look like that he's going to get closer, and he is. But the only problem is he's cutting me off, unaware of the fact that he's actually just going to stall out before he can get close enough to where hitting me becomes an absolute. Hitting me becomes more of a possibility, I'd say. And yeah, he ends up stalling out directly below me, take a couple of pops at him, and he goes down. This next example is a P47, and this is a D28, and that is a pretty darn good plane at 4.7. However, at low altitude, the P47 isn't actually that good, and since the La-7 is a menace at low altitude, it's just going to show you how much better this plane is than the D28. The D28 is slower, it climbs worse, and it turns worse than the LS7. It has absolutely no advantages below maybe 3 or 4 kilometers. And I'm speeding this part up because it is a bit of a long chase, but eventually I'm going to be able to go over 600 on the deck. He's not. And you're going to see how quickly I start catching him the second he goes vertical. And this plane is just... This plane is pretty bullshit, I would say, at this BR. 5.0, 6.0, it doesn't really matter what BR you're at, as long as you're below 3 kilometers. And yeah, eventually, I get too close to him. There's not really much you can do at this point. And although it is kind of a boring kill, it just kind of showcases how much better the LA7 is than a lot of the planes you're going to be facing at this BR, as long as you can keep it below a certain altitude. It does everything really well. This guy presents a full broadside to me, and yeah, I'm not going to have a problem cleaning him up. Okay, let's hop into some head-ons. This plane's pretty good at them. It has 3 20 mils in the nose, so of course I'm going to use that. And they have a pretty high fire rate too. I think 800 rounds a second, or 800 rounds a minute, sorry, for all 3 guns, which is pretty good weight of fire in the burst mass up in front. So I take 2 guys out there. Not really a problem. Key 43 now goes head on with me, and I'm going to start breaking off right after I see him start shooting, just to make sure those rounds don't get to me in time. He goes down, and this match I actually get 3 head-on kills in one match. First is the 190. I'm going to dodge just under his guns. I take his wing off, and eventually he J's out. And then the second clip right here is going to be an F82. This is probably a minute or 2 later after I killed the 190. And if people decide to stick the head-on, as long as your rounds are hitting, then they're probably going to go down. These cannons hit extremely hard, and even on the A26, you're going to see here, this is the 3rd head-on I've taken this game. Every single time, the enemies just combust. They completely fall apart. And yeah, these guns are amazing. I feel like I don't really know what I'm talking about. Alright, that's how I sound like. Sorry, I haven't done a commentary for a while. But now we're going to move on to the 1v1s versus, I think, several different planes. I have like 5 or 6 of them here. First one is going to be a P38K, and this thing is actually quite dangerous in a 1v1. P38K has a lot of energy retention and really good low-speed performance with those flaps. So right now I'm just trying to stay out of his guns. I actually get a bit close to him. He gets pretty close on my 6, and you can hear him dropping throttle, which honestly I'm not going to respond to by dropping throttle in kind, because the LS7 doesn't have the best MER. That's one of the kind of downsides of this plane. However, it does help in a dogfight like this because it has so much engine power anyways. I end up getting severe damage on his rudder. However, since it's a P38, it doesn't really, what do I say? It gets a lot of like fake severe damages, quote unquote, kind of like an A6M3 does. Like, I've severed P38s and they're still perfectly capable of fighting. I think it says damages of rudder, so I'm assuming that I took one of his rudders out, but he has 2. He's still plenty combat capable, and I break off here because in a low-speed fight against a P38K, I'm not going to win that. He has landing flaps that are much better than mine. He has actually better power to weight at this altitude, even at this altitude. And the LA7 isn't actually the best low speeds. It doesn't use a laminar flow wing like the P51s. However, it just kind of feels a bit heavy with the handling when you drop below about 300 kilometers an hour. So I'm going to actually dodge under this guy this time, just to make it a bit of a different dodge as I did the first time. I'm going to go back up over him. And at this speed, I can drop my landing flaps pretty comfortably and cut inside of him for one shot here. I'm going to get it. His wing goes off, because these guns are absolutely amazing. And that is going to be the end of the 1v1. This next one is against an A7M, and these 2 guys have been following me for maybe 5 minutes this match, or 4 or 5 minutes, and I got kind of annoyed, and I'm actually going to turn into the A7M just to kind of entice him a bit more to get to follow me here. If he's closer, he's going to want to follow me a bit more in this dive, and I want to do that because I'm going to split S under him pretty soon, and I tell Ushiki, as long as he takes care of keeping that Zero's attention up there, then I can dogfight this guy in peace. And the A7M is a plane that compresses really bad, and the LA7 does not. It can pull upwards of 12 Gs at high speed, and that's something that makes it really good at reversals. So we set one up here against the A7M, get a nice hit on his tail, and this guy's still, I'm about to black out, but this guy's still compressing, and I set a fire. and he's going to go down pretty soon. I think I said, what did we learn here? Because I got pretty mad. I was not mad, but salty. This guy was chasing me for a really long time, very tunnel visioned, and he didn't give it up. So I felt like it was kind of deserved, that little quit back. Next example, we have an F2G, and the F2G is actually a lot faster than me, and is also a pretty good low altitude plane. However, I'm just going to lure him away because I turn a lot better than him, and although I don't necessarily climb better, turning is what matters in this reversal. And the F2G actually kind of compresses at high speed, so I want to take this as far away from that middle furball as possible, and my team's kind of collapsing in the background, so if the enemies don't see me, that's much better. F2G is catching me, just dodging the 50 cal spray. I'm going to do a low yo-yo under his nose, and instead of blacking out, I'm going to wait for him to get his nose around, dodge under his guns, and then back up over. And he's going to end up overshooting because he was already faster to begin with, but I also have poor MER compared to him. He actually cuts throttle, but it was way too late. I end up pulling directly inside of him, and I get on his 6, pilot snipe him, and he goes down. Next example is a 109K4, and these planes, the 109 doesn't compress that bad at high speed. However, once you get near 600, 700, its roll starts locking up pretty bad, so you can take advantage of that as long as you stay perpendicular to their wings like this. I'm actually waiting here just for him to try and pull back inside of me again. I'm trying to force him to overshoot eventually here, and once he gets close enough, I can start maneuvering just a bit more aggressively, really lock him into this spiraling scissors. He rips his flaps. I deploy my takeoff flaps just to get a bit slower. In reality, I didn't really need to here, but I did anyways. He pulls out right in front, and he's not focused on me anymore. I just get a free kill. Just a free kill. And this next example is of I think it's a Dora. Doras have absolutely no business dogfighting you. You turn better, you climb better, you're just as fast as them on the deck. And they can't really do much, even though they're at the same BR. I honestly find it pretty sad that the Dora has to fight this thing, and that it's at the same BR. La-7 just does everything so much better. As you can see, I instantly pull inside of this guy, set him on fire. Yeah, I mean, these guns are just awesome. Like, I think almost every kill you're gonna see me get, with the first bullet, I either set them on fire, I'll take their wing off. It just takes one good burst of these guns. This BF-409 as well just gets folded instantly. Alright, now we have some examples of... This is the regular LA7 at 4.7, but this is a pretty good example of how to boom and zoom in this thing. I don't use the boom and zoom style very much in the LA7, at least the LA7B. I focus on more of a hit and run, kind of keeping your speed thing, but the LA7 is really good at boom and zoom because it climbs so well, and especially at low altitude. So I'm going to end up using that in this match, along with another LA7 that is on my same team to kind of carry the match 2v8 or something, whatever it was. It's a THP guy. These guys are actually pretty good. I don't meet them much, but when they're on your team, they're pretty solid teammates. So he ends up taking the J2M out there. And I'm going to keep fast forwarding this because nothing really happens until I get over to this A6M6. So a bit of dead silence here from me. Don't really know what to say. But yeah, the A6M6 has absolutely no business trying to pitch up for an LA7, even above 4,000. A6M6 tries to dive under my guns. However, I actually get a pretty good shot. He actually dodges into them, and he instantly goes into a flat spin, which is pretty good for me because that allows me to instantly start going for the 4 guys that are below me and the THP guy. And right now, I'm looking at the A7M because that is the most dangerous target, and he's also pitching up to me. So I really want to make sure that if this guy gives me an opportunity to kill him, I'm going to take it with both hands. A7M is just not fast enough anymore after he pitches up to me. I end up spraying quite a bit of ammo at him, take him out, and extend away. THP guy actually went for the same guy I did, which is not the best idea. However, since we're both in LA7s against planes that don't climb particularly well, it's not going to matter too much. LA7 is really good at these altitudes. It instantly gets back up to speed after you do all sorts of maneuvers, and it's just really good for that. So THP guy is baiting this A6M6 away from him and away from, or kind of towards me. I just overlead those shots, and I'm going to extend away. I'm going 670 out of that dive. Plenty of speed to get away from this A7M1 and the Narwhal, sorry. Narwhal actually almost hits me with those 20s, however, MG151s don't really have that much range, so I didn't really feel like it was necessary to dodge. I get up to 1500 meters, and I'm already going almost 400 again, which is this plane's vertical performance, this plane's performance in general at low altitude. I'm going to keep saying it. I sound like a broken record, but it's awesome. I see the Narwhal is pitching up for me. He's not really going to get his nose on, so I end up going for him. He does end up hitting my engine, which is pretty unfortunate, but I do take him out. And I have plenty of engine power still to climb above these guys. This A7M trying to call out that the THP guy needs to go for him. And THP sees that. A7M's not paying attention, and he ends up taking him out. Now I can turn back around to help the THP guy with the A6M6 that is now on his 6. And I still have plenty of engine horsepower to deal with the A6M6 because it's just such a fat zero that in these types of fights, he's just not going to be getting anywhere with that engine. And after taking him out, I RTB. And that is going to be the end of that clip. And this next example is kind of where I made a mistake. I'm showing you this kind of front section clip because I want you to see that there's 3 enemies above me, and I made a mistake by going after this P-47. I do end up killing him. I actually almost rip. I've not yet ripped in the LA-7, which is kind of impressive, I'd say. Its rip speed's about 730, which is quite a bit lower than a lot of planes that you'll fly in other tech trees. Definitely not the Yak 3 though. It's a bit more comfortable for me to use, but yeah, I haven't ripped any yet. You just have to make sure you kind of stay below that 700 mark as much as you can. But now, after killing that P-47, I made a mistake. There are 3 guys diving on me now. I'm pretty confident I can handle these 2 A8s. However, since that Tempest is also kind of around, I'm a bit scared. I end up dodging directly under both the A8s. They're never going to be able to follow that. I'm going 12 Gs, and the second I get space like this and extend away, they're never going to catch me. The LA-7 climbs better, turns better, is faster than the A8, at this altitude especially, and I'm going to just leave him in the dust. And after climbing and extending away for a short while, I'm now above these 4 guys, and what matters most right now is just picking the right target. So just making sure that there's nobody over to the left that can come kill me really quickly, and I'm going to go for this Focke-Wulf first. He takes a head-on. I'm not going to have it. I end up getting a hit and breaking off, and here comes the Tempest. I actually take a head-on with him too, although this wasn't the best idea. I end up getting a hit, dodging his guns, and then I'm going to come back around for whoever I can go for now. I see this 190, this D13 is not going to get a shot on him here. I take his rudder off, and now I'm going to go back towards the other 190, but he ends up dying. So now, it's just, I'm looking at that F8F in the right corner of the screen right now, just extending away now because I can see him coming towards me. F8Fs are pretty dangerous at sea level. They do end up catching you. However, since this guy's not paying attention, I have a pretty good opportunity to spike him here. And I just underlead, or sorry, underlead. This guy ends up going up, and if he kept going up, I may not have gotten the shot on him. However, in his panic, he defensive flies, and he actually does a low yo-yo, which just allows me to cut inside of his turn more. I get directly on his 6, one tap his wing off, and that is going to be the end of this clip. Next up we have another 4-kill game, and this is also kind of odd positioning. I'm just working my way around the map, just how I see fit, making sure that nobody can really catch me, and this has a lot of, not a lot of it, but this has a couple of examples where I isolate scenarios, or isolate people in 1v1s, kind of creating a winning scenario for myself. So I dodge the F8, go under him, and now I'm just kind of looking for a target. I'm at my optimal altitude where I can either pitch up to spike someone or dive down on somebody if they're below me. And I see the F8F, and he is not necessarily slower than me, but he's a lot lower than me, which means he's going to have to pitch up to me to be able to get a shot on me. However, he's just too slow. And he ends up going straight up. I don't know what his plan was here, but his only option was realistically just to try and dive away. He ends up presenting a full broadside, and making for a pretty easy kill. And now I'm going to extend kind of towards the southwest side of the map, where there is a 109, and there's a couple other fighters to the right. However, my focus right now is to single out this 109, make sure he goes down, and then just kind of reposition in a way that allows me to win the match. I take out this 109, short burst, his tail goes off, and yeah, these guns, man, I'm an advocate. These these things one shot every time. But after about 30 seconds, kind of extending back towards the group of enemies on the right, I see that the F8 is diving on me, so I'm going to dive away from the group of enemies that's on the right, and I'm going to force this guy to take a 1v1. I'm going to force this guy to isolate himself from the rest of his team, and that's exactly what I want, because the 190 F8, it's a great plane, gets an attacker spawn. However, in a fight like this, in a 1v1, it has absolutely no chance. So I'm going to lure him to high speed, I'm going to pitch under his guns, pulling 12 Gs. He actually ends up pulling off a bit early, which kind of surprises me. I do a bit of an odd maneuver that almost puts me directly in front of his guns, but he doesn't take it, and I end up getting directly behind him. Severe damage, and he's going to J out pretty soon. There he goes. And right now, I'm just looking for the next target. I'm looking at the F4U right now. He's chasing my teammate, and I want to make sure that I can get this guy off my teammate 6 before my teammate gets shot. And right here I'm waiting just a bit longer than I usually do because I don't want to end up shooting my teammate in the background. But luckily I get a fire set, and the Corsair is now going to be pretty damaged. However, he actually puts the fire out instantly, and I have to go back and finish him. So after a bit of turn fighting, a bit of a downward spiral on the deck, he's the last enemy in the area, and I don't really need to worry about anyone else. So I can just pitch in here. I don't really care about losing all my energy, and finish him off. Okay, so here are the two full matches at the end of the video. This first one is on, I think, Smolensk Winter, and we have a P-47 and a P-51 directly in front of us. And I'm just speeding this part up just because it's me catching the P-47. He didn't really try and fight back, but this just kind of shows you how much faster I am than a lot of the crap you're going to be facing. This La-7 is just rapid. It accelerates really quick, has great top speed, great energy production, and it's just really awesome. And I don't know what this P-51 was doing, but after even like doing a 180 and I'm still below him, I'm going to easily catch him in the spike back up. And it just kind of showcases how much energy this plane can produce. And I'm actually going to try and turn with this Spitfire because I have a teammate around. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to turn more aggressively than I normally would, even though it's a Spitfire, because I have a teammate around and because he's not going to be paying his full attention on me. So after that, if I had turned back into him again, he would have gotten a shot at me. So I'm just going to extend away, make sure that he focuses on my teammate, and the second he stops looking at me, I'm going to pitch straight back into him, because if he's not looking at me, he can't dodge me, at least not intentionally. So he goes up, trying to get away from Frogmouth, and that gives me a pretty easy shot, full broadside. His plane gets absolutely blown apart by just a couple of 20 mils, and man, these guns, just looking back on this recording, it's amazing how many like kills I'll get with just a single burst of these guns. They're really consistent, they hit like trucks, and I definitely recommend trying out a plane like this, or a plane with these guns, especially the La-7. I end up one burst in his Corsair, and I actually didn't see this guy until a bit too late. However, since I'm going fast enough, I can pull like 11 Gs out of this guy's guns. I don't compress at all, and the F8F kind of has a shitty rudder at high speed. Excuse my language. I think he had bombs. It looked like he just dropped bombs from his wings, but it wouldn't have really mattered anyway whether he had bombs or not. He still wouldn't have been able to really get away from me because he has such bad MER, and I end up taking him down. I think there's another guy on my 6, but it's actually just a friendly A7M shoulder shooting me, and that is going to be 5 kills. This last guy that I'm going to be taking down is a P-51D-30. He was kind of space climbing the entire game, so he has a lot more energy than me right now. I'm just taking a couple pot shots just to see if they end up hitting him. I think those would have fallen short anyways, but they looked like they got close, so that's what matters, right? And of course they made him dodge, which is pretty funny. But right now we're just gonna wait to see what this guy does. And right now I'm just kind of keeping my, I'm not gaining any altitude because I figure that he's gonna pitch down like this. He does. I start rocking my wings side by side, and I do kind of get a bit lucky. I wasn't necessarily fast enough to comfortably dodge this guy. However, since I'm going slower, I'm going to be able to turn inside of him. He goes up, I drop my landing flaps just to get that bit more aggressive turn, because I figure he's going to go down like this, and he gets right in front of my guns, completely obliterate his plane again, and that's going to be the end of that match. This last one is another 6-kill game, and this is... Where am I? Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm below P38K. Or, not a P38K. I'm below a P38. Sorry, massive brain fart there. But I'm kind of at high altitude right now. However, since this guy's close enough to me, I feel comfortable to engage this guy. There's nobody else really up here. So it was just me and that guy. He ends up getting a wing taken off. I now go for the P63. He's way too slow to dodge. He tries to go kind of under my guns. However, in doing so, he gives me a full broadside at close range, which I'm not really going to miss every time. And that's my second kill. I now dive on this Typhoon because he's isolated from the rest of his team. And if he doesn't see me, he's going to make a pretty easy kill. He turns full broadside, and his bad roll prevents him. From being able to dodge under or over my guns. All he can really do at that speed is do a flat turn if he doesn't know how to snap roll. So he goes down. I take the A21 out. I do a barrel roll under the other A21, who wasn't necessarily looking at me. However, just to be safe, I'm going to make sure I dodge under him, make sure I get out of his nose, and I'm going to extend away from the Bearcat, who is the last guy in that furball. He gets taken out. And now I can go for this J26, who, it's a D20 Mustang. I'm going to have a very easy time catching him very quickly, even though he has a lot more energy, but he actually turns back into me, giving me a shot. I spray quite a bit. My aim wasn't actually that good there, however, I end up one-shotting his pilot, and I believe that last set of 3 rounds took his wingtip off too, so that just goes to show you the power of these guns even more. Like, you don't even need to have that good of aim to spray them, because they have 800 rounds a minute fire rate, and if 1 or 2 of the bullets hit, the enemy's plane's toast. I end up going under and then spiking this P61 because I love spiking people in this thing. I get my 6th kill, and now the last guy, who I actually know, we go way back, me and Rat Gang. He's a T18 enjoyer. I almost get hit. I go directly up over him, and he's not going to have a chance in a dogfight. But the La-7, I would say a lot of Russian 20s actually do struggle with killing bombers. Their damage against big armored targets like bombers is actually kind of bad. And that first burst I do whiff, but you can see I actually hit him with maybe 7 or 8 shells right there, and he's just fine. And I'm actually out of ammo. So after shooting him quite a bit, I end up having to RTV. My teammate in the Yak-3 ends up killing him, and that is the end of the game. And that's also going to be the end of the video, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for putting up with my, I feel like it was kind of crappy commentary, but I did my best. It'll take me a bit to get used to it, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.